What's up everybody? In this video of the Python Basic series, we'll be talking about lists and we'll see how they are created, how to use them, some of their applications, and some functions that we can apply on lists. So a list, it's one of the most used data structures of Python, and you'll see why, because it's got like so many applications and it's used very often in programming. So a list is it's like an array. It's a sequence of objects. But actually, it's a sequence of references to objects. So it does not actually store those objects. It only stores the references to those objects. And we'll talk more about what references are exactly. But for now, just think of them as addresses, like memory addresses, which they are really. So okay, so list creation. So an empty list, it can be created in two ways. You can say list, and that's it. If you run this, you can see that here you are getting a and a close and a closing and an opening and a closing big bracket, and that's the notation that marks a list. So you can check its type, and you're gonna see that it is a list actually. So it says that it's list. Also, you can check out its length using the len function, which is a built-in function in Python. So if you do that, you're going to get 0 because it does not have anything. Okay, one sec. Okay, so you see there that it's printing out a 0 because we don't have anything in our list. The second way to create an empty list is by doing just this. You can just open and close a big bracket. That would create an empty list. So if you do that, you can see that you are getting a list there with 0 elements. You can check its type again to see that it is a list. Also, you can check out its length, saying that, and you can see that it's 0 again. Okay. Also, using this method, you can pass an iterable in here, and you can see that it converts it into a list. So for example, if we pass a string, which we learned in the previous video that it is an iterable. So let's say that you pass something here like awesomeness. If you run that, okay, it's printing the length right now. We would have to remove the length to see what it's printing as a list. So you can see here that it's printing each of its element one by one, or all in one, but separated by commas. So all these characters are now elements of the list. And if you want to check out its length, you can use length function by saying len, and you see that it has 11 elements. Now it's creating that into a list of characters. Okay, so that's creation. I mean, also you can create it like this. If let's say that you want to store this as a variable, you can say awesome equals list awesome. Now if you print out awesome, you can see that it's gonna print it as a list. So you can see that it's printing AWSE and so on as a list. Okay, there's another way to make lists though. You can just open the bracket, the big bracket, and then you can pass elements, and you can separate those elements by commas. So a list can have any type of data object. So it could be an integer, a boolean, a string, or a list itself. Actually, you can have another list inside a list. You can have a tuple, and we'll talk about what tuples are in future videos. But for now, let's just maybe leave that one because I don't want you to guys get confused. So let's see what else. You can have floating points, right? 4.56, and if you run that, you see that it's the list. If you check out its length using len function, you see that it's 5, which is 5 actually. Also, the elements of the list, they don't have to be literals. So a literal is a constant, so you don't have to, say that, you don't have to give the value of the elements. So let's say that there's a variable declared already. So we do have a variable here. We have an awesome variable declared there. So we can say awesome. And if we check out the length of it now, you see that it's printing out 6 now. So it has 6 elements, and this is a variable list. I mean, this is a legal list. It's not returning an error, so that works. Okay, there's another function um, to there's a lot of functions actually for a list. So let's say that you have a list called numbers, and you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10 in there, and you want to find the sum of all the elements of the list. So you can simply say sum, and you can pass numbers in it, and if you print that, you can see that it's printing 55, which is actually the sum of all these numbers. The first 10 natural numbers, it is 55. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself. So it's printing the sum. What else? Let's say that you want to, okay, let's say that you want to reverse the list. So you can do that by saying numbers dot reverse, and if you do that, you can see that it's not printing anything. But if you print numbers now, you can see that it's printing the reversed list. So we have 10 9 8 7 6 5 up to 1 now. So okay, you can also sort it. So let's say that you want to sort it, you can say numbers dot sort. If you run that, you can see that it's not printing anything, so it's not returning anything. But if you print it out, you can see that it's printing the numbers list again. But it's by default it sorts in ascending order. If you want to do it in let's say ascending order, then you can say reverse equals true. So if you do that, you can see that it's printing 10 9 8 7. So it's basically sorting the elements in the reversed order. So also it would work on any sort of list, so it does not have to be all integers. But then if there are, let's say, strings, then they would all have to be strings, because you cannot compare a string and an integer. So let's say that you had an integer in there, and if you run that, if you run sort now, you can see that it's giving you a type error, because it says that less than is not supported between string and integer. And that's true, because you cannot compare an integer and a string. Okay, so but let's say that you had all strings there. So let's say that you had A, B, and C. Actually, let's do it in a weird order so that it has actually work to do some sorting. Okay, so let's say that it has ACB. We're going to comment this one out, and if we say numbers is equal to ACB, and if we do numbers dot sort now, and if we print numbers now, we can see that it's printing CBA, because we had reverse equals to true. If we set it to false, and now if we do that, we can see that it's printing ABC instead of ACB, which was the original list. So it sorted it. Okay, so that works also. Also, you can have the same kind of effect with float and with other data types, but they would all have to be same type. So in order to use the sort function. Okay, so we learned about len function, the sum function, dot sort, and dot reverse. I guess I guess that would be all for this video. Because I mean, yeah, there are a bunch of other functions out there as well. You have the index function, the count function, um, and other function, the extend function, pop function, remove function. Actually, let me tell you about the clear function. Okay, so let's say that you want to delete all the elements of the list. You can say numbers dot clear, and if you run this and you check out the list now, you can see that you have an empty list. You have an empty list again. So if you go ahead and check out its length, you can see that it's 0 again. So it actually deletes all the elements of the list, the clear function. So what else? So we learned about, okay, so we learned about like 5 functions and list creation and like some sort of modification and what data types we can put into it. Yeah, I guess we should keep it uh, just that much for a basic course, and maybe in another playlist of an intermediate course we'll talk about more functions and all. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Python videos, and I'll see you in the next one.